everyone, welcome back to Kidding Around. My name is Melanie Smith, and I think it is wonderful that you are here with me today for another Masterpiece Monday. Today we'll be talking about the artist Anila Quayyum Agha, and we'll be looking at some of her art, and then we'll be doing a project inspired by her art. I'm sure that you have probably figured out that me sitting in the dark has something to do with the project that we'll be doing. So I just want you to take a quick minute before I turn the lights back on and look at the beauty created by the light and the light reflection that you can see here on the table. We'll be talking about that more, so let's get started, okay? I'll turn the lights on, let's go. Of course, as fun as it is to see this art that really takes on its own life in the dark, it is lovely to see you. I can't wait to help you make your own type of art like that. Before we do that though, let's learn a little bit about the artist and the art that this is based on. So as I mentioned, her name is Anila Quayyum Agha, and here is a picture of her in her studio. She was born in 1965 in Pakistan, and she currently lives in the United States. So she is a Pakistani-American artist. She's known for a lot of different types of art. She's known for painting and drawing and sculpture and installation art. She's also known for her patterns throughout her art. And those patterns are based on ancient Islamic geometric patterns and Islamic interlace patterns that she makes through cutting and sewing. And we'll be talking a lot about those patterns in just a couple minutes. She says a lot of her art was influenced by the different faiths and the different cultures that she experienced as she was growing up and that she has lived in. So the different faiths, such as Islam and Christianity, and the different cultures that are in Pakistan and the United States have greatly influenced her art. I love this picture of her. I love the way the lights and the shadows show on her face. You'll see why I love it in just a minute when we look at a piece of her art. But my guess is that you probably already know that her art clearly has to do with lights and shadows, just based on the way that we started this lesson. Well, let's get to it. Let's look at one of her famous pieces. This piece is called Intersections and was done in 2013. To give you a little bit of an idea of the scale of this installation, this whole picture is an entire room, and it is a very large room. In the middle of the room is the box, the wooden box that she laser cut lots and lots of different designs in, and then put a light in the middle of the box to make all of these reflections shine out. You can see why it's called Intersections, I'm sure. All of the different ways the lights and the shadows intersect throughout is really amazing. So we are going to make our own piece of art today inspired by Agha's Intersections. We are going to make art with light and shadow just the way she does. To do this, you will need a few supplies. You will need a standard sized gift bag, not too big, not too small, color doesn't matter. You'll need a pair of scissors. Some washi tape or scotch tape will work just as well. And you'll need a piece of paper. This is just a standard size printer page. And then you'll need at least one battery operated tea light. Make sure it's battery operated and doesn't have any flame in it. All right, so let's get started. In order to make this beautiful light and shadow piece of art, I am going to first need to cut a hole in my paper bag. I'm going to take a pencil. I think I forgot to tell you that you needed a pencil in the supplies list, but a pencil's always a good thing to have. So I'm going to take my pencil and I am going to draw a rectangle on the flat side, see, not that side, but on the very flat side of my bag. And it's not going to be too big and it's not going to be too small. We'll call this the Goldilocks rectangle. It's just the right size. So that's about the right size. And then I am going to cut in and cut it out. Again, the size doesn't matter too much. You just need to make sure that you have some paper bag on all four sides after you've cut out your hole. Don't stress too much about the perfect size, just get it close. And then also don't stress too much about cutting. Remember, we just want things that are close. Nothing has to be perfect. Okay, so you can see the size rectangle that I have cut out of my bag. And I'll show you. When I open it, you'll see that's about the size. All right, so then we're going to put that aside, and I'm going to then bring over my piece of paper, and I'm going to use the piece of the paper bag that I just cut out, and I'm going to trace around it. But I am actually going to leave just a little bit of paper around the edges. So I'm using this as a general template, but I want to make my paper just a little bit bigger. So if you can see my pencil marks there, I've made it just a little bit bigger. And then I am going to cut that out as well. And you know, my standard thing, right? Doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so now that I have my paper, I am going to fold it and cut it in much the same way that I would if I were making a paper snowflake. Have you ever made a paper snowflake before? Well, if you haven't, it's made by folding and cutting paper, so we're going to do just that. So I am going to fold my piece of paper in half, and then I'm going to fold it again. And then I am going to fold it sort of in a triangle. Truly, the folding doesn't matter too much. You're going to be cutting on these folds, so you want to make sure that you don't make it super, super thick by folding a lot. But I folded 3 times here, and that's a pretty good number. The first 2 folds that I did were right on top of each other, right? Let's look at that. So I folded once right on top of each other, and then I folded twice right on top of each other. And then my third fold wasn't exactly on top of each other, and that's totally fine. For making a snowflake, that works very well. The only thing as I start cutting into my snowflake that I need to be aware of is to make sure that I don't completely cut off any of my folds, because we're going to be opening this up after it's cut. And if I have cut off any of my folds, I will have more than 1 piece of paper. I will have 2 or 4, and I want my entire piece of paper intact. So I have a fold here and a fold here, and then I have a fold down here and a fold here. I can cut through them, so I will be cutting shapes through them, but I want to make sure that there's always some piece of fold there, or probably 2 or 3 pieces of folds that will keep the paper all together. Now I'm going to start cutting very small and really pretty simple designs into this paper. Once we unfold it, you will see that they've transformed into somewhat more complex shapes, and they'll look different than what you've cut. So I am just cutting, trying to cut some triangles in here. I haven't yet quite completed my triangle. There we go. So I've cut a couple triangles, and then let's see, I'm also going to cut a rectangle in here. And you can cut whatever shapes you want. You just want to make sure, again, you can see that I'm cutting across that fold, but I'm not cutting completely off. I'm not cutting the fold completely off. So I'm making sure that there's still some fold there between my shapes. Let's see, I'm going to cut something like a half circle, or maybe more like a half oval. There we go. And then let's see, for my final shape on this side, I'll just make another triangle. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to make some shapes in here too. Again, I'm cutting across the fold, which is fine. I'm just making sure not to cut the fold completely off. So there, I have cut a tall triangle. Let's see, I'll cut a shorter triangle. And you can see it's okay that I went through this fold here when I cut my tall triangle. That's okay, because I just made sure that there's still some fold left. Let's see, I cut a shorter triangle. Let me do another half circle type thing. All right, that wasn't very half circle-ish, was it? It didn't completely complete, but that's totally fine. This is going to look like a beautiful snowflake when I open it up. All right, and then over here on this other side, I'll do some more triangles. You can tell I definitely like triangles, right? Triangles are fun when you open up a snowflake. All right, I think I have enough cutting in here. So now I'm going to open up my paper and see my beautiful design. Wow, isn't that fun? I love it. So every time you do this, it will look a little bit different, just like a snowflake. Okay, so once you have that done, now you get to put it in the bag, in the hole in the bag. This is a little bit tricky, and it might help to have an extra set of hands. So if you have someone with you, you might ask for some help. Basically, what we're going to be doing, here, I'll turn this around so you can see it, is we are going to be putting in this piece of paper, And we're going to be covering the hole that we have cut out of the bag. And then we're going to use some tape and tape along the lines of the paper to make it stay. Because this is a little bit hard for me to do with just my two hands, I'll show you what I'm going to do on just a half of a paper bag. And you know, even as I'm doing this right now, I'm aware that I probably even need a second pair of hands for what I'm doing. So I'm going to cut this so that I can show you exactly the way to put the tape on. All right, one more cut. Okay, so you know, this is the front of your paper bag. So we're going to imagine that I'm putting mine in here, but it's really just right here. Okay, so what you'll do is you'll lay it down and you're going to have to finagle it a bit. It might be easier actually to put the paper down on a table and then put your tape, you know, halfway across the halfway across your snowflake, so you can see the tape touches the snowflake there, but it's also touching the table. I think that's probably the easiest way to do this, is to get it all set and then try to put it into your bag. You'll figure out the best way to do this probably as you go along. And you know, you might figure out the best way to do it just as you're finishing up. But then if you make a second one, you'll know exactly how to do it. So just be patient. It will work. If you're using washi tape, it's really forgiving, so you can pick it up and lay it back down. So if you get it kind of stuck in the wrong spot, that's okay. You'll be able to reposition it. If you're using scotch tape, it's a little bit harder, but it's still possible. All right, so now I have my piece all taped, and then I will just put it in the bag. So I'll slide it in the bag, and then I will push the tape down to make sure that it sticks. All right, so once you have it looking like this, or truly, actually once you have it looking more like this, then you can take your tea lights and turn them on and slide them in. And then the best part about this is that then you get to turn off the lights and you get to see your beautiful design. And I guarantee you that your design will be prettier than the one that you saw right at the beginning. The camera did not capture the beauty of the art that this made. Also, when you do this, make sure to look at the shadows that the light is casting around. These shapes with the light behind them make some beautiful art of their own. You know, if you wanted to get really ambitious, you could even turn your bag around and you could do the same thing on the other side, and you could see shadows casting both ways. I would love to see pictures of your completed projects and of your shadow art. Please ask the adults in your household to put those on our Facebook site. I hope you have enjoyed this art piece. I think it is so much fun to be able to play with shadows and light. Of course, if you like this type of lesson and want to follow along with all of Kidding Around's videos, please make sure to follow our YouTube channel. We do Masterpiece Mondays, as you know. We do Test Tube Tuesdays, Wanderlust Wednesdays, Thoughtful Thursdays, Fun Film Fridays, and we also do some fun lessons about wonderful women and standout stories. We post 3 videos every single week. We'd love to see you there, and of course we'd love for you to follow us other places too. Please follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Pinterest. Thank you so much for joining me. Thanks so much for kidding around with me. I will see you next time.